You're doing everything right, so why aren't you seeing results? Maybe you've been trying everything, like early mornings, meal prepping, saying no to things you used to enjoy, pushing yourself to the absolute limit, but here you are, still stuck. The scale won't budge, the mirror doesn't feel any kinder, and every step forward feels like you're sliding 3 steps back. We get this so much. Not only have Alex and I personally been through this, but we have been working with hundreds and thousands of clients that feel this exact same way. And I really just want to acknowledge how frustrating and confusing that can feel. And it's something where that's exactly what we're here today to be able to talk about, is that missing piece in your fat loss journey. So we're going to be uncovering the hidden factors that might be holding you back from those results that you so freaking deserve. And if you missed last week's episode, that was something where we really talked about why diets fail, or why they're even failing you. And we really want to talk about today about what the missing piece in your fat loss journey is. And with that being said, if you also didn't catch last week's episode, if you did, you were the first to know. But if not, we are putting on another webinar, and this is going to be all about the fast track to fat loss. These are like foundations and things that we teach our private clients, and we are giving them away for free. And we are so excited. The first webinar was so much fun. And if you can't tell, Alex and I love being able to really provide detailed information. That is how we got to 200 plus episodes on the podcast. That is how we have been posting on Instagram and YouTube for almost a decade, is we love to be able to give out information. And we want to take it a step further by giving you a training and being able to go more in depth. So make sure that you check the link down below, because that is going to get you to register. There are limited spots available, so make sure that you go ahead and register now. Maybe grab a friend to register with you, but it'll be on February 5th at 1 p.m. EST, and we can't wait to see you there.
We look forward to seeing you guys at the webinar. And to get today's episode rocking and rolling, it's probably best that we get started with why the obvious answer is likely not the best option when it comes to fat loss. And I think the most obvious answer is that you need to move more and eat less. Mm-hmm. And on paper, that is going to be a fantastic approach. And for some individuals, that specific framework is going to do the trick. I am sure there are some of you listening that have tried eating less and working out more and have come to no avail of fat loss. And so this episode is specifically for you, where you've had this struggle in being able to walk through these things. And what we see when it comes to these extreme calorie deficits and getting very high output with activity is a couple of pitfalls that people will fall into. And what we will often see here is an individual either overtraining or severely under-eating. And these will provide results for a short period of time, but will start to see stalled progress and then have more negative side effects than positive benefit that they're experiencing. And so when we see someone who is coming to us in a underfed state, there are a myriad of different symptoms that they may be experiencing. They may be seeing some issues within their overall energy. They may be seeing some issues within their skin health, their sleep, and constantly feeling this state of overall fatigue and brain fog. And so we want to certainly avoid doing that, because we don't want to just get in all these negative points for the sake of fat loss, especially when we're not seeing the result that we want to see.
And I think that people often forget that when it comes to dieting, you are going to be down regulating your hormones. And to a degree, that's just bound to happen. You're not going to necessarily be able to keep all of your hormones at the exact same level from the beginning of a diet to the end of a diet. So it's okay for things to shift because of dieting. But what people often don't understand is that the longer that you diet, the harder that you push, and you're not seeing results, even if you're not seeing physical results, you are still having the impact of the diet on your body. And so you are going through times of your hormones being down-regulated, your metabolism slowing down by continuing to diet without seeing results. And then, like you said, that kind of gets you in that spot where it's going to take a lot more to be able to see those results, which can be very frustrating, because it's like all I've done is what I've been told to do, of eat less, move more, and I'm not seeing results, and now my body isn't responsive to anything. So how would you say, or how would you figure out if you are overtraining or undereating? Because I think that's a part of it, is that people don't know. They often ask themselves, like, am I working hard enough? And they get kind of stuck in this aspect of, since they're only having a conversation in their own head, of thinking, I'm not working hard enough, I just need to be working harder. So how can someone really tell if they're in a place that they are overtraining or undereating?
So with the overtraining, this is going to be something where we're seeing a repetitive response of just being very sore within the training. We're not seeing a whole lot of progress in the weight that we are lifting or the sets or repetitions that we're performing. And so we're not seeing progress in the gym. We're very sore on a day-to-day basis. We feel beat down, and we have a lot of maybe nagging injuries, or we're sustaining injuries on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis, while all this whole time not seeing much, if any, progress. That would be some signs that our training needs to be adjusted, or that we've reached a point of overtraining and we need to pull back and spend some time doing things like restorative yoga and doing things that are going to more build up your body rather than continue to tear it down.
And then what about something like undereating? How does someone know if they're undereating? Because they might just be like, well, I'm in a diet, I'm supposed to be hungry, this is how I'm supposed to feel. So how does someone know if they have been undereating?
Undereating is a tough one because from a symptomatic standpoint, we're going to have a lot of overlap of things that we could maybe address in other ways. And what I had talked about earlier being that the brain fog, the chronic fatigue, the lack of like feeling like you're having to constantly feed off of motivation and willpower to just do daily tasks. Mm-hmm. It's probably a good sign that we're either in an underfed state or just a simply under-rested state and not prioritizing our recovery enough at bare minimum. But then we would be looking at potentially undereating in that fashion too. What I will consistently see with those who are undereating is that they'll go through spells of underconsumption, and those are the times that they're tracking their food. But then they'll see progress for a little bit, not see progress. Okay, I'm done with this. And then they just go back to eating a copious amount of calories. And then they're like, well, why? And I feel terrible on both ends of it. Mm-hmm. I don't ever feel good in any situation. And it's like, well, we haven't gotten to a place where you're just simply fueling your body with the approach of taking care of yourself relative to, I need to lose body fat or I don't care anymore. It's like you're literally in the two extremes, and we've got to find a middle ground for you to actually see success.
And I know another question that we get a lot is like, if someone's in a caloric deficit but not losing weight, should they address their nutrition first or adjust their training first?
You are in luck if that is your question, because we just recorded an episode covering all this, and it's episode 199. It will be in the show notes for you to click and listen to after this episode. We give you a full decision tree in there of exactly the decisions that you need to make and the questions you need to ask yourself to make that decision of should you change your training or should you adjust your nutrition.
That was a very good episode. So I hope that you guys do check that one out. Now, we've already kind of touched on this, but the aspect of just try harder. Now, I will say that oftentimes it is either I need to try harder or I need to try smarter. And like it can be one or the other. I do often tell people of like, hey, we don't always need to work harder. We need to work smarter. But I have seen it in clients of like, hey, you just need to put in a little bit more effort. You need to push yourself a little bit more and we'll actually see these results. So when does someone know, again, in that instance of when do I just try harder or when do I realize I might need to try smarter in this instance?
I believe that it comes down to asking yourself a handful of questions and just being really honest with the situation that's at hand of looking at your nutrition. If the nutrition is the problem, and looking at how you're structuring your meals, the total amount of calories and macronutrients that you're consuming, is this a feasible approach for you at this current time? What is the bottleneck, or where is the challenge for you? Is it the structure of the meals? Is it the total amount of calories that you're consuming that are just maybe too deep of a deficit? Really being honest with yourself in the challenge or the conflict that you're facing, and going through step by step of where the problem may be strongest. And if you look through all of that and it really does come down to a matter of, man, I just need to be more diligent, I need to try harder, I think that process is going to allow for you to make that decision relative to the person who's in the headspace of, I miss my nutrition, I just need to try harder tomorrow. It's like, try harder with what? What was the problem? Where did you miss? You don't even know where you missed. You're just telling yourself you need to try harder and tearing yourself down mentally because that's easier. Like in your head, this is the right thing to do because this is what you've always done. This is what you've always done when you run into issues of just beating yourself down and telling yourself you're not enough, telling yourself that you're not smart enough, you don't understand, you're an idiot, blah, 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 blah. And this is how you deal with it relative to taking a step back, breathing, not just getting angry and throwing a little hissy fit in your own head. Really looking at the situation, addressing the actual issue, and then making the changes necessary to fulfill what you want to do. Or you can say, what I want to do is too much for me right now, and I need to pull back even further and address habits. I need to address maybe my knowledge on a particular topic. Maybe I need to reach out to someone to give me better knowledge on this to learn from so that I can approach this in a much better way.
And I love what you said about not just I need to do better or I need to try harder tomorrow, because it truly, a big missing piece in that is intention and understanding of what you need to get better. And that's been one of my favorite things, is just to approach everything with so much curiosity of, if I make a statement of I want to look better, what does it mean to look better to me? Because better is a relative term. What does better mean? That can mean something completely different to you and completely different to me. And so by just having this very generalized thought process, you're never going to be better because you have not defined what better is and what you need to improve on. And so truly taking time to reflect, and maybe it's, I need to be better tomorrow. Then you take a second, it's like, what's at least one thing that I can focus on? Hey, I need to be more intentional about getting my steps tomorrow. That's going to be a much better phrase to use than just, I need to be better, because you're clumping everything together. And then you're also expecting this extreme improvement from where you started when you haven't clearly defined what better means, what you're going to do to get better. You're just continuously telling myself, I need to do better. I need to work harder. I need to do better. I need to work harder. On what? Like, do you even know on what that is? Or are you just telling yourself, well, I'll just do better?
Right.
Again, on what? Like, what are you going to do better on? What have you not done well on? What is causing you the reason to not do well on those things? And people don't take time to be curious enough. They just want that answer.
There is nothing that you should be more specific about than your wants and your needs and what you desire for yourself, because you are the only one that is you. You are the only one that's in your head. And so the more specific that you can be with what you want and what you desire, the better the outcome is going to be. The more that you speak in generalizations and the more that you just clump things together, the more lackluster things are going to be, as well as the greater frustration, because you're just not speaking your truth. You're just kind of like, yeah, in this realm of things, I want to do this. Like, no, what do you exactly want to be the outcome? What do you want to see for yourself? Is that even feasible for what's forward for you? And it's going to be good for you to know, is it feasible or not? Because you could be chasing something that is not even realistic for you to accomplish with the current parameters that you have in place. And you could save yourself a lot of time, a lot of headache, if you just have clear expectations for what you're wanting to accomplish.
And it's not always just that you haven't worked hard enough in something. It's that you're missing a strategy to really accomplish that. And that strategy can be asking questions, breaking down the problem into smaller bits and moving that forward. But it truly is about having efficiency within that to be able to take that next step instead of getting stuck in these broader strokes. Because without clarity on what that is, you're never really going to get there at all. Low reps is best.
High reps is best.
Fruit is so
It's
good
terrible for you.
You should lift heavy.
High reps,
Carbs
low
are
weight.
needed.
Keto
Squats
for
are
life.
bad for your
Squats
knees.
are great
You
for your
should
knees.
squat ass to
Knees over
grass.
toes.
It's fine. It fits my macros.
It's for idiots.
When there are so many mixed messages going around, it's hard to know what you should even do or focus on. But that's exactly where physique development one-on-one coaching comes in. You might have heard of online coaching or even hired a coach before, but we believe in teaching you the why behind what we do while truly taking your life into consideration. We want to train, educate, and empower you to reach your goals and help you to stop spinning your wheels and just finally feel good. And hey, we're here to help you look good too. You need you. Your health is your wealth. So join Physique Development and let us be the last coach you ever need.
Which leads us into the big thing that we preach is working smarter, not necessarily harder. And clients will raise this question to me of, how do you get past maybe the guilt that you experience when you are working to work smarter, not just harder, and you've been this work ethic, workhorse personality for so long in your journey? Like, how do you not feel guilty in making that shift?
A few things come to mind, and one is that I have been a battering ram and hit my head against the wall so many times. And sometimes you need to do that and you need to cross the line to know where the line is. So that's something that I take instead of being like, well, I was working really hard and now I feel like I'm not working as hard and having guilt about it. I look at it as I have now data of how I worked hard, but I didn't get the result that I wanted. So now I might have crossed the line, but now I can find out where the line is, and I don't need to push past that anymore. I don't need to get to the point where I am ramming against it and not seeing the results that I want. Now that I understand where the line is, I am able to look at it and say, now that I get where that is, I can now look at, for me to actually see results, I am going to have to not continuously cross that line. And so I don't think that it's necessarily guilt in the aspect of now I'm not working hard. It's just you're working in a different capacity. You're working to become more efficient within what you're doing, where you might have just been using brute force before, but now you're taking a step back and looking what's the best way around. Let's say you see a maze, a corn maze. Yeah, using brute force, you could run through every stalk of corn and get to the center. You're going to feel horrible afterwards, and now you just ruined the maze for everyone else too. Or you could take a step back and look at what way do I need to go to get to where I'm going. And so there are two ways to get there, but one is going to be a lot more painful and going to use a lot more energy versus just being able to go about it in a different way. And I think that that's the switch, is it's not that I'm not working hard anymore. It's I'm working hard in the way that's going to get me to where I want to go instead of just working hard to work hard.
I look at everything, or I look at my energy as a body battery, and this is just better utilization of my battery. And if I'm just working hard, I can use far too much of that battery that I have for my entire day on singular task because I'm not working in an efficient manner. But the more that I'm able to be efficient, then I'm able to use that hard work or that work ethic across more things. I'm able to do either more things or better quality of things, probably both. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, when I shift the lens to more of a body battery focus, like I've got 100% juice because I slept super well last night and I've eaten super well and all these things, then I'm able to, use that in a better way.
Yeah. And it's not that working smarter means that you no longer work hard. Because I think a lot of people have their identity in the fact, like, I work hard.
Yeah, me.
But yeah, you for sure, myself included in that. But even something that's helped within my shift is like, if I say I'm going to outwork everyone, I also need to outlast everyone. And how am I going to outlast everyone? I need to keep in mind my body battery. I need to keep in mind that I can't just hit wall after wall after wall. I need to be able to be in a place where I can look at things, be smarter about it, be more efficient about it to get to that end goal. Because otherwise you are just going to burn up way too fast and not be able, you might have outworked everyone for a period of time, but you weren't able to actually outwork everyone because you couldn't last as you went through it all.
Absolutely. We talked a little bit earlier about hormonal function and its impact on fat loss, what hormones would be potentially playing their role. And I think, when we talk about some of the main ones, we can get into sex hormone production. I think that's a separate episode in and of itself. We can talk more specifically around cortisol and insulin and hunger signaling. I think those are going to be the main ones that are going to see a more frequent flux with lifestyle factors. Sex hormone production is certainly going to experience flux with lifestyle factors, but I want to focus more so today on cortisol, insulin response, as well as hunger signaling. When we look at research, one thing that I thought was a staggering stat that I wanted to share with you is that if you are sleeping 4 to 5 hours a night, now, I want to say this because there are some individuals who will get in bed and then they'll wake up and then they'll say, okay, I got in bed at 10 o'clock and I got up at 6 o'clock, so I slept 8 hours. And it's like, that is not how that works because you may have tossed and turned, kicked your dog off the bed, got up to pee,
scrolled on TikTok,
sat there for 2 hours. And then all of a sudden that 8 hours is really 4 hours because you were doing all kinds of other stuff. And so real sleep, actually in a sleep rhythm and sleeping. So sleeping 4 to 5 hours per night decreases leptin by 18%. Leptin is the hunger hormone that is going to signal to your body, yo, I'm full. So with you sleeping that 4 to 5 hours, staying up, watching TikTok for a few more hours every night, you're getting almost 20% less of that hormone that's saying, hey, we're full. So you're going to be overeating and you're doing it to yourself. To add, you're also getting an increase in ghrelin by 28%. Ghrelin is the hunger hormone that is telling you you're hungry. So not only are you getting an increase in the hormone that's telling you that you're hungry, you're also getting a decrease in the hormone that says, hey, we're full. And so when you're in the state of, I just need to listen to my body and I need to eat what I am told I need to eat, and you're not sleeping well, horrible plan.
All bets are off.
Horrible plan. You should not do that. You should stick to the plan. And I see this too often, especially with some of my new parents who just had their first kiddo, or maybe they've even just had their second kiddo and they're not sleeping well after having the baby. This is a time where having a coach or having a system in place for your nutrition is paramount. I cannot express the importance of having the coaching at that time in your life when it's a brand new chapter that is a lot of changing variables. And having that help with your nutrition, having that help within your training is so important.
So with this episode being specifically about the missing piece in your fat loss journey, hormones are one of those missing pieces in your fat loss journey, because you can be doing everything right as far as what the science says, calories in versus calories out, being able to work out more and eat less. And again, you might still be stalling and not seeing results. And that's the missing piece of hormones, of if you're not taking hormones into consideration, what impact they have, and different things like how sleep can impact your hormones, like how dieting can impact your hormones, then you are going to be stuck spinning your wheels and not getting that output. So this is something we see so many times with clients where they're, quote, doing everything right or working very hard, but not getting the result. And that's where we can take a look at some of these aspects and see, oh, your hormones aren't in the right spot. So the general aspect of calories in versus calories out isn't true if this isn't addressed. And so we always, when we are looking at clients, want to address hormones and make sure that they're in the best spot. And so with looking at the ones like Alex talked about of cortisol, insulin, and the hunger hormones, we also will take a look like metabolism, thyroid, both working in together there. And what we do here is that it doesn't mean that we always have to get labs for every single person, although we do order labs for a majority of our clients. It's something that we are able, because we've been coaching for so long, to look at things that are going to affect hormones and make those changes before having to buy all these supplements and like try and diagnose ourselves with all these different issues. It's really about, hey, let's figure out what things are going to affect these and how can we get these in a better spot to ensure that your body is running as optimally as possible.
And when it comes to addressing hormonal function, this episode or giving it, 20 minutes of this episode is not going to be enough for us to really give a thorough enough answer to some of the things that may pop up. And so if you are interested in us covering these things in greater detail, we can do that in future episodes. Let us know in the, there's a link in the show notes for your comments to be able to, provide us with questions and so on, put it there, and we can get into more of a deep dive on the topic to give a full look or as much as we possibly can in a podcast episode. I just don't want to shortchange it here for you all to get a fraction of the answer and then all of a sudden get yourself into a rabbit hole of, oh, well, I've got this and this and this and this. And it's like, that's not what I'm wanting you to get out of this. So in a future episode, we can dig more into it.
Perfect. So another key thing that can be holding you back and the missing piece within your progress can actually come down to your mindset. Crazy enough.
The one I struggled with the most as I got into my health and wellness journey was all or nothing mentality. I struggled with it still to this day, significantly less than I used to, but still struggle with it.
That one is the kicker. That matched with perfectionism, which to a certain degree, I feel like they go hand in hand, but it comes from the state, I find, of lack of understanding about what needs to be done fully. And so then you end up between this place of, I think that I have to do everything. And so if I don't do everything, then none of this matters. Where when you can have more clarity on what you need to do, instead of just thinking, I need to do everything all the time, having clarity on what you need to do, as well as understanding the aspect of like self-compassion when it comes to building consistency. Because how I like to look at it within this is that something is always better than nothing. Now, that one needs to be the exception more than the rule. So it's something where my rule, so to speak, is being able to do things as much as I can. But in the chances that I can't do everything, then something is better than nothing. And being able to do it that way and recognizing that you need to have compassion because nothing's ever going to be perfect. And I used to take that as, if I can't be perfect or if things can't be perfect, then why even bother? But now I take it a lot as things can't be perfect. So I need to accept that and have that realization. And then when things aren't perfect, just be able to have a little bit of compassion with myself and figure out the next step forward instead of catastrophizing everything and thinking everything wasn't perfect, so I just should do nothing. And I think that's the balance that you kind of fall into, is being able to have the understanding of first what needs to be done, but then also having enough self-compassion where it's not self-compassion just you give yourself a million excuses and now you're just allowed to fuck off. You give yourself self-compassion to recognize there's no such thing as perfection. And now I just do something and I take the next step forward.
Yeah. And I think the strongest thing, or what's been helpful for me and my clients, is having a little bit of a priority list. Like, what are we really working on at this moment? And what are the big rocks that we can really move on a day-to-day basis? And I will put this into 3 things for the individual client. And for today's purposes, I'll just have nutrition, and daily activity or steps, and then training. And those 3 being our large priority. And how are we going to ensure that those are non-negotiable, completed every day of this week, or however we're approaching the game plan. And by shrinking down the things, I think that is helpful. And having a very good plan in place over the week that's scheduled out and you have something to follow, I think is huge. And then from that priority list, we don't miss twice. And so if you are to have something come up, we're not going to have a second day in a row of missing the particular thing. So if you missed your steps because it was snowing outside and it was -3 degrees, great. You can use that excuse for today, but tomorrow we're going to have a bigger plan. We can't say, oh, it's cold again today, I can't go out there. It's like, well, are you going to get a walking pad? Do you have a treadmill at home? Are you going to bundle up and just get outside? That's probably your better option.
Are you going to walk at the gym when you're already there?
Right. Like, are you going to get more steps while you're at the gym? Any of those things can be beneficial. And the same thing goes within your food, of like something is going to pop up and you're not going to be able to stay on point with your food. That's fine for today, but how are you going to do better in that situation when it comes up again in a month? And then how are you going to be right back on point the following day? And taking that approach within your training as well, I think is a nice step in a positive direction.
Yeah. And a big part of this also is just understanding how dieting doesn't have to go. I will go ahead and link a post that I actually just put up today when we're recording this of different things that you need to be able to tell yourself when you're going through a dieting phase. And I find that the reason that I typed them up this way is because I hear the opposite of it every time I'm talking to clients, of thinking that they have to be miserable when they're dieting, that they should have hunger and be so cranky all day, and that they're going to be tired, they're going to be so fatigued, they're going to have brain fog, and that's just what dieting is. And we're here to tell you first, it does not have to be that way, and that is not normal. But that's a big part of it, is reframing that mindset. Because if you've already accepted or told yourself this is supposed to suck, then everything that happens, you're now normalizing, well, that's just part of this. And so being able to have understanding of that doesn't how it has to be, then that's going to also give you a lot of clarity of not getting stuck in this all or nothing. Because if that's how dieting had to be, then I would feel that all or nothing mentality. I would get stuck in being frustrated. But once you have that understanding, then that's going to allow you to have a better mindset and therefore have better results because you have a better understanding of it as well.
I will say some of this comes probably, like in our space at least, from the bodybuilding coaches, where when I was very entrenched in just doing bodybuilding coaching, like that was part of dieting. Like it sucked. It really was not fun at all. You dealt with brain fog. You dealt with pretty significant fatigue, especially closer to the show. That's just part of the game. And so then when that coach who's doing a majority of bodybuilding stuff gets a one-time lifestyle client, well, it's going to be easy for them to just be like, yeah, this is how this is supposed to be. Like, you've just got to tolerate this. And as I am doing less bodybuilding work and doing more lifestyle and multiple different types of cases, I'm realizing that that's just not how it has to be. It does not need to be that way, especially when we're talking about someone getting to a normal body fat level, not getting into these extremes as what you would experience within bodybuilding coaching, for instance. Are you sick and tired of your glutes not growing? Turning around in the mirror and seeing a board for a booty? I've been coaching for nearly a decade, helping thousands of women reach their goals. The most common goal: grow my glutes. Women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and even 60s able to grow their glutes with the guidance of my training programs. And for all this time, I've kept my best glute growth secrets only for my one-on-one clients. And that changes today. We just released our 12-week glute growth program in the PD training app. It is a 4-day program with exercise and volume adjustments every 3 weeks. You can easily access the program through our app and track every single workout. Each exercise will have a detailed video teaching you exactly how to perform each and every movement. And guess what? I am no longer gatekeeping. I'm sharing every single one of my best glute growth secrets inside this program because you are awesome and I want you to have this program. I'm going to give you $25 off, making it a fraction of what you spent at Starbucks this past month. Use code POD. The link to purchase will be in the description. Now let's get back to the show.
So we talked about within missing piece of that fat loss journey, one of them being hormones and the other being mindset. And so coming into this third one, that is something that's holding you back, is really going to have to come down to your focus. And what I mean by focus is not only just what you are like having the focus of I'm dieting, but also what it looks like for what you're focusing on within the diet. So are you looking at just the scale, or are you looking at more of those metrics to be able to focus on what that information is telling you to then take that next step forward? Where another part of the focus is having true intention within what you're doing. But I also think that it's really important to look at what you are focusing as you're going through the deficit.
Yeah. What are you tracking throughout the process? What are the variables that you're wanting to see improve? How many things are you tracking within the progress for the fat loss? Is it just the scale? Are you taking measurements? Are you taking photos? What are the things, and how frequently are you doing those things? Are you just getting on the scale one time per week? That's not going to be a good idea. It's just, there's too many variables that go into shifting that particular scale weight that are going to have so much variability on a day-to-day basis that if you're only taking it one time per week and you didn't sleep well, you didn't have a good bowel movement prior to the weigh-in, you had a late dinner, all these different factors, you may see a skewing of 3 to 5 pounds from where you're actually at. And so you may see on multiple weeks in a row, if you're only getting one weigh-in, it's the same weight, but in reality, you've lost multiple pounds in that time frame. You're just not tracking the data consistently enough. And this is where the measurements and the photos come into be great tools, because you're able to see all of the picture in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. And even just tracking your workouts so that you know, am I actually improving? Being able to track your habits. So it's not just, well, I've been putting effort forward, where you can put effort forward, but again, it not be the right effort or enough effort. And so really being able to track these things allows you to then reflect on them, have that data, and not just rely on your own memory, or now that you've had 2 seconds to think about it, you're now going to make a statement about how your whole week went. You're able to look at it as a full picture and be able to make a decision from there.
And the fat loss is probably not going to happen as fast as you want it to happen. And so the more that you can set up these small micro victories on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis within tracking these different variables is a tremendous help in the process. Because if you think you're going to go through a fat loss phase and every day is going to be, we're moving in the right direction, and it's just this linear loss of calories or loss of body fat, that's just not going to be the case. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and keeping yourself even keeled from a emotional perspective is probably the biggest part of my job.
Yeah.
Like the knowledge and the skill to be able to do the training properly and get nutrition correct and the activity correct, those are obviously huge parts of this. But managing the emotional part of dieting is almost equal to the importance, because if we don't have the emotional integrity and the stability that we need to go through the dieting phase, we're going to chronically make poor decision after poor decision because we're flying off the handle on things that don't matter in the bigger picture. And we get too hyper focused on singular things. And that is what we're trying to avoid.
And that's also why we don't have daily check-ins with clients. We have weekly check-ins because we need to be able to see the data over time, be able to make a decision. And then if we're just going from the emotional response within a day, it is so easy to make the wrong decision off of emotion.
Correct.
Another reason that I see people not seeing success within their fat loss is because they are trying to follow either what someone else did, or they are just trying to follow a general plan. And that is something that always makes me so sad for people who are putting in a lot of effort and not seeing those results, because it comes down to the fact that the plan doesn't work for them. And I think people often blame themselves of thinking, I'm not doing something right, or I'm not working hard enough, or maybe these results just aren't for me, when it really is more about the plan working for them instead of them working for the plan.
You need to be met where you're at. That's the only way that you're going to see real change in your body composition. That's the only way that you're going to see, feedback that is moving in the right direction. Because if you get a plan and you're at point A and you have this plan that's all the way very specific, but you don't have the habits or knowledge to get to that particular specificity of it all, it's going to feel tremendously overwhelming. And you're going to make missteps, and then those missteps are going to lead to you not seeing results, and then you now blaming yourself. It's like, no. You just needed to have a plan that was at point A, and then you could go to point B and beyond that, and then you would see progress. But you tried to jump the line here that didn't need to be jumped. It was just out of probably simplicity or ease, or avoiding a conversation that you were feeling embarrassed about, or something along those lines. And now you're 2 steps further back than what you already were, rather than just meeting yourself where you were and gradually moving forward.
I mean, here's the thing. Everyone has the same 24 hours in a day, but Not everyone has the same responsibilities and circumstances. And that's where the gap is that you are comparing yourself to someone else's day or circumstance or responsibilities and wondering why you can't do the exact same thing or why you aren't having the exact same results. And it just might not work for you. And being able to have something that's truly personalized and tailored for you is always going to yield better results because it's taking all of those things into consideration. It's building off a plan that works for you, not just a plan that, hey, this might work or this is the general concept of it. It's getting into the nitty-gritty. It's giving you details. It's taking your feedback and truly making sure that it works.
Right. And I mean, we can go example for example within our clients and the different cases within their schedule and how we've approached things and met them where they're at. But I think that we would just, it may bore everybody to tears, honestly, because we've just got we've got too many to go through. One that comes to mind for me is that I have a client who travels a lot for work. She also has 3 kids who are in a lot of extracurriculars. And so as soon as they're out of school, it is like swim practice, gymnastics, all these boom, 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 boom. And so her evening is absolutely bananas, as well as her during the day is bananas. And so we've had to get very strategic in the exact foods that work for her within her breakfast, her lunch, her snacks, her dinner, and have it planned out to a T so that she's not, it's second nature to her. She's not having to think about it or be like, what should I have for lunch today? It's like this woman has moments spared in her schedule. Literally seconds. She does not have a moment to breathe. She's going as soon as her eyes open in the morning. And that is a very specific situation where we've had to get into the trenches and be able to do that. I've also had a college student who is like, I can't find a moment in my day. And it's like, that is not how this So I've got to meet that person at a different place than what I have for this executive who has multiple children and she's got a lot to take care of. And so it's like, you've got to meet the person where they are and build them up. And that's where the success really lies.
And if you can't tell, we are extremely passionate about this. And that's what we've dedicated the past decade of our lives to, specifically help people in their circumstance with their responsibilities, knowing their goals to be able to get them there. And that's exactly what we're going to be going over in this webinar. So if you did not register for it at the beginning of this episode, then make sure that you go ahead and hit the link down below, because like we said, we are going to be giving specific strategies and foundations that we use with our private one-on-one clients to be able to get them that fat loss. And that's what we want to be able to teach you as well. So don't forget to go ahead and hit that link down below. If you have any questions about anything that we have talked about in this episode or any other, like Alex mentioned, we do have a link that you can ask us questions and give us any feedback, or if you have any topics you want us to go over, but we do Q&As as well. And so if you have questions, those are ones that we take into the next Q&As to be able to get you those answers. But we cannot wait to see you on February 5th to be able to go even more in depth in this and to really give you those strategies that we use with our one-on-one clients. So we'll catch you on February 5th.
See you there.